Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After that, we're going to be going through the preseason games, my likes, my dislikes. After that, we're going to be going through fans' questions. And somewhere in the middle, we're going to be playing the clip of the week, where we play the audio clip of the week that you need to know about. So if you like that, hopefully you'll stick around. So let's get into this first news story, because I can't wait to get to this preseason game and give you guys my opinions on it, because there's a lot to like that we saw on Thursday night. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Miami Dolphins have signed defensive tackle Robert Kimdichi. I think is how you say his name. Again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins announced they have signed free agent defensive tackle Robert Kimdichi to a one-year deal, placed him on the active, physically unable to perform list. The pact is worth $1.9 million, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL.com. Robert, who was selected 29th overall by the Cardinals in 2016, was cut by Arizona in late July. He was quickly linked to the Dolphins, who were reportedly, quote, getting their due diligence done and making calls. It's weird how when they quote and they don't say where that came from. That's really weird. It kind of trips me up. Anyway, just some anonymous guy said that. It's just really weird. On the former first-round pick, Miami left tackle Laremy Tunsil, a teammate of Kimdichi's at Ole Miss, was a big advocate for signing the interior defender, according to Mike Garafolo of NFL.com. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. He was talented. He never lived up to it, ever. He's been a decent against the run. But he's just been super inconsistent. I just highly doubt he's going to do it. I'm setting expectations really low for Robert here, because I don't really care about the off-the-field stuff. We're not even going to talk. I'm just talking about on the field. He just never panned out. There was a lot of hype and off-seasons for him, similar to like a Devontae Parker. Todd Bowles, Bruce Arians couldn't get him right. I just feel like if that coaching staff couldn't get him going, then, and that was a good coaching staff, I just don't understand how in the world. I mean, it's basically it's similar scheme. It's not as multiple. Our scheme is way more versatile than theirs was. They just ran a straight 3-4 on base downs, but that is what I'm assuming he's gonna do most of here. Maybe he plays some end, and he can, he definitely has the body type and athleticism to play end, especially in this scheme. So it'll be interesting to see where he lines up, but I just don't really have high expectations for him. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if anything, hopefully he adds a good rotation to the unit, or helps us set the edge. Because the best thing he's done since he's been an NFL player is be a run defender. There is just a lot of expectations for him to be a great pass rusher, and he just never lived up to that. So if we're getting somebody who can come in and help us against the run and rotation, then it was a great signing. Yeah, I apologize for the fumbling mid-article right there. I hate when I do that. I was like, all right, maybe we should restart, but it's like, nah, we'll just keep it going. This next news story also comes from Pro Football Rumors. Brian Flores planning multiple groups on defense. The Dolphins' defense should look a whole lot different next season, or this season. And Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald writes that much of that can be attributed to the defensive-minded Brian Flores. The team's new head coach is planning on having several different looks or groups on defense, including 3-4, 4-3, 5-2, and something else altogether different. I think this is a quote from Patrick Graham. He said, quote, our defense coordinator, he said, quote, "It really comes back to trying to put the right personnel groupings out there to match up with the offense is trying to do and maximize the skill set of our players. If that takes 5 safeties or 10 safeties, then that's what it is." That's what he said. I think as a person who's watched football for a very long time and loves the game, that's how you should play defense. If you're not matching the personnel, and even if it does get a little crazy where you want to put maybe a lot, if you run 5-2, we have 5 down linemen on base down, that's I think you rarely ever see a 5-2 package now, but sometimes you have to get crazy. Because you do have to match what the opponent's doing, not being stubborn. Like, okay, we're just gonna line up in wide 9 the entire time. Sometimes, well, not even just sometimes. It's always better to match what the offensive personnel is every single time. I've always felt that way. That's how the Patriots have always done it. That's how they've done it on offense as well. Their game plan is completely different week to week, and same thing on defense. So I think it's a great thing. We've been hearing about this all year so far. This is not news to anyone, but it's cool, and I like that. I think that's how defense should be. I really like what Brian has done so far. I really, really do. I like the way the defense. I'm not going to get into the weeds of it, because I like the way the defense played early on in that game, in the preseason game. There were just really one player was giving up a lot of plays. We'll get into that later. But yeah, I'm very excited for this defense. I've been on this defense's bandwagon for a while now, because I think that's the one unit that's going to be pretty good. And I've said that many times, and I'm going to continue to say it. I feel like the defense is going to be pretty solid. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it. I don't think we're going to need edge defenders because of the scheme we're going to be running. I think, what Brian did last year, because he had his best pass rusher was Dante Hightower. His second best pass rusher was Trey Flowers. His third best pass rusher was probably Kyle Van Noy. So they didn't have an elite pass rusher last year, and he brought a lot of pressures. And our secondary is good enough to bring pressure like that and be really successful at it. So I don't think the lack of pass rush, if there will be a lack of pass rush, is going to hurt this defense to the point where it's going to be a terrible defense. I think the run defense is going to be really good, and this whole matching personnel thing should really help the run defense a lot. That's something that the Dolphins haven't done in a very, very long time. Even just hearing this, it's going to make the defensive schemes that we've ran in the past look like preschool defenses compared to what we're going to be running this season. It really is going to make it, that's the way, again, I'll say it one last time and we'll move on. That is the way you should run defense, in my opinion. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And to run this defense and be successful at it, I feel like you have to be very, very versatile and deep in the secondary. And guess what? We happen to be very versatile and deep in the secondary, at least in my opinion. I think we can move around a lot of different players and a lot of different positions if we wanted to. And they can be very successful at whatever they do. And I'm very excited to see this defense in the regular season, because I really like it, man. I really like it. I like the intelligence that has to go into playing a defense like this, because it is. It's not just banging your head against the wall and hoping it works. It really is trying to counter everything your opponent's trying to do, and I like that a lot. All right, let's move on to the next news story. This next news story comes from the Tampa Bay Times. This is really just in case you didn't know what the Dolphins are going to be doing. The interstate rival Miami Dolphins come to town this week to practice with the Buccaneers on Tuesday and Wednesday before another meaningless exhibition game on Thursday. Don't know why he used the word meaningless. I hate when people do that. These games don't mean anything. Well, maybe I guess for you they don't. Maybe if it's the casual fan it doesn't, but it's very important. You want to see how good your team has been doing in terms of drafting and evaluating the young talent that is on the roster. As a fan, as a hardcore Dolphins fan, that's really fun to do. Whatever the scoreboard is, you really are just kind of looking at specific players, and I'm really excited to see what so and so is going to do. And I feel like Thursday, at least this previous Thursday, a lot of our young talent got a lot of Dolphins fans, and including me, very excited for the future, because there was a lot of youngsters out there, young players that were playing very well, and it's very good news. So again, the Dolphins will be practicing against the Buccaneers on Tuesday and Wednesday before their preseason game on, I think, Friday. I don't think it's on Thursday this week. So just in case you guys didn't know that, we're going to be practicing against them. It should be interesting with, the quarterback competition going on, that we're going to be practicing against another football team. It's going to be good for the offensive line to go against another defensive line that has. I don't know if JPP is going to be there, but they have like Vita Vea. They have Sue there. They have some good linemen there, so it should be good for the rookies and linemen to see what we can do. So those practice reports are going to be interesting. I'm most interested in how Preston does against the other DBs, and how the offensive line does, and how Josh Rosen does, or is the most interesting thing to me. These practices are going to be very, very interesting. This next news story comes from MiamiDolphins.com. The Dolphins signed Terrence Smith. They waived the injured Jonathan Woodard. The Miami Dolphins today announced they have signed linebacker Terrence Smith and waived injured defensive end Jonathan Woodard. Smith has played in 31 games with 3 starts for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2016 through 2018. He has 29 career tackles, 20 solo, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 2 pass defense. He also has 5 career special team stops. Smith originally entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent with the Kansas City Chiefs on May 9th, 2016. He played collegiately at Florida State, where he started 10 games at the school's 2013 BCS National Championship team. Woodard played... I think, who are we talking about right now? Now we're talking about Jonathan Woodard. I was like, whoa, that confused me. Jonathan Woodard played in 6 games for the Dolphins in 2018, totaling 10 tackles, 8 solo, and 1 sack. He joined the Dolphins as a practice squad addition on December 5th, 2017. Woodard originally entered the NFL as a 7th-round pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2016. So this is kind of sucky news because Jonathan played well last year, especially against the game against the Patriots on the road. He had a good game. So that it sucks that he's gone now because I did have some expectations for him. Terrence Smith, more of a nickel D. I would say every time I've ever seen him play on the Chiefs, I think he got some pretty good amount of playing time in the playoffs last year. I think maybe I'm getting him mixed up with someone else, but he's more of like a nickel linebacker. So I think he's probably, if anything, if he makes the team, he'll be on special teams. But he's a good coverage linebacker. So that's what he does best. This next news story comes from the SunSentinel.com. Josh Rosen continues to trend upward in Dolphins quarterback competition. Could see first-team reps in Tampa Bay this week. Josh Rosen's time to practice and play with the first-team offense will come at some point during the Miami Dolphins preseason. But Dolphins coach Brian Flores insists he does not have to see Rosen perform with the first-team offense or go against the first-team defense to conduct a proper assessment of his young quarterback before the 2019 regular season. Brian said, quote, "Quarterbacking and decision-making, I think you can get a good evaluation of decision-making regardless of who's on the field." Brian Flores said during a conference call over the weekend. While being prepared with questions about when Rosen will, prepped or prepared, doesn't really matter, about when Rosen will play with the starters following Miami's first preseason game, Brian said, if you want to see, so this, Brian is talking about whether we will see Rosen with the starters this week. He said, quote, if you want to see if he can make a tight throw into tight coverage against a good corner, that's one thing. If you want to see if he'll force a ball into double coverage, whether it's against first, second team, or third team, if you see a quarterback doing that, he's getting a bad evaluation. That's how I see the game. That's how I see the quarterback competition. The quarterback position. Don't know why I say quarterback competition. While assessing Rosen's performance with the first-team offense seems like a natural progression for the Dolphins in their starting quarterback competition, Flores is trying to manage the reins on the battle between Rosen and veteran Ryan Fitzpatrick as Miami enters the second week of the preseason. Flores goes on to say, quote, there may be an opportunity where Rosen plays with some of the guys who we call first-teamers. Okay, I don't know why. Okay, so I've heard about, when I first heard about this, I thought it was weird. I don't understand what the heck's going on. I guess he doesn't want to say. Actually, it's kind of smart not to say, because you don't want your players. If you haven't told your players yet, then you don't want to tell the media. And he's right about that. You don't have to see Josh Rosen play the first team defense to know if he's a good quarterback. That's obviously true. Because quarterbacking is about dealing the ball. So you're really, to a certain extent, you're only as good as the people around you. To a certain extent. you can go above that and elevate other people's talent. Some quarterbacks can do that. But to get a general sense of how good a quarterback is, you can see, like if I put Russell Wilson with a bunch of second teamers, he's throwing to second team receivers. So it doesn't really matter what he's going against. You do get a good. I agree with Brian. I mean, you still do get a good. It doesn't matter. You still get a good evaluation of him. Now, it would be interesting if we kept some of the first team receivers in. Maybe even if the second team defense is out there for the Buccaneers and he dominates, that's a great sign. It's a really good sign, actually, if he dominates. So it really doesn't matter whether he's going against the first team or second team. It really comes down to has he earned it? And we'll talk about that later. Because this is really the first time us as fans have gotten to see him in action like this. For some of us, at least, I guess. But there's we're watching practice. I mean, that's what preseason is. You're watching practice. And we'll get into that later. But, I agree with Brian. I don't think you need to see him against the first team or with the first team to get a good evaluation of him. I think that I agree with that. All right, moving on to the next news story. Kind of jumbled that article. Kind of got confusing, that last one that we just read. But anyway, this next news story comes from NFL.com, believe it or not. Dolphins wide receiver Preston Williams impressing teammates. This is about 5 months late, but let's read it anyway. This article isn't 5 months old. It's new, but the fact that people are now just hearing about Preston Williams is old news to us because we've been hearing about him all year so far. And I'm not even going to read this. He starts off with a rebuilding Dolphins team. Yeah, who cares? Everybody says it. It's so stupid. It literally, I'm honest to God, if someone came out tomorrow and just started, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. If someone came out tomorrow and was like, oh, the Dolphins are going to compete for a Super Bowl, everybody in every article would say the same thing. Everybody says the same thing, dude. It's insane. If the popular opinion doesn't, If your opinion goes against the popular opinion, then no one's going to write that in an article, dude. Because they're afraid of backlash. I swear, bro, it's insane. It's a bunch of sheep out here, guys. Whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. That's not what I'm talking about. He could completely be right. We could be absolute garbage this season. I don't have a crap and crystal ball, but it's just insane how many people think the same thing and write about the same thing and have the same opinion, dude. It's ridiculous, dude. Just because some guy on ESPN with a weird voice, it's like, why are you talking in that cadence? Tells us that the team is rebuilding when he hasn't even sniffed the building or been around the players or watched the players play is insane. It's insanity, dude, that these people get away with this stuff. It's crazy. They're just repeating what they've heard. Anyway, the rain aside, NFL.com talked about how good Preston Williams is. Williams is an undrafted rookie out of Colorado State. Made 4 receptions for 97 yards in the Fins preseason win over Atlanta on Thursday, including 3 highlight reel grabs. While the Rook introduced himself to the National Football audience, Williams has been hitting at his type of performance in Dolphin training camp and already has his teammates raving about him. Pro Bowl quarterback Xavier Howard said, quote, "That guy can be special. He's just a rookie. There is so much room for improvement with him, but he's going to be a number 1 receiver someday." This is what Preston Williams had to say, or not Preston Williams. This is what Josh Rosen had to say about Preston Williams. Josh said, quote, "Preston can go get the ball." So yeah, it's just cool that Preston's getting national attention because of how good he played, and he's a great. I mean, I don't want to say he's a great player yet. I mean, he hasn't played a regular season game, but he's gonna be a great player. I mean, dude, just watch his college. I don't want to say tape, but just watch his college plays. It's crazy, dude. When you watch it, you're like, how does this guy go undrafted? It makes no sense. Ever since I watched him, I was like, yeah, this guy's gonna be good. And then we hear about the stuff in preseason and spring, and training camp, and then you're like, okay, yeah, this is real. Preston Williams is a really good player. He seems like a good person. I mean, I know he's had the off-the-field issues in his past, but people grow up. It happens. People, hopefully people learn from their mistakes, and I don't know why Preston can't. And I think at least it seems, and hopefully he has, and he can continue to progress and become a great receiver. But he is a physical, and we're going to get into it here in a second, but Preston Williams has got us all excited, and he's going to be a very good player. So this last news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Brian Flores highlights some success from Dolphins preseason debut. Flores said, quote, "I thought our operation just in and out of the huddle, when you watch the tape, you see Atlanta had some trouble getting lined up from time to time because we were in and out of the huddle pretty quickly." That's a great one. That's good to see that. I didn't notice it. I haven't rewatched the game, but that's cool that Brian noticed that. That's a great sign. This next one that Brian noticed, Brian said, quote, "I like the operation from that standpoint. We can catch or keep people off guard and off balance that way. I think that can give us an advantage." So I thought that was something that was good. I think that's all Brian. That might have been all that Brian said. Yeah, that was all that Brian said. And he also said some good things about Preston Williams. So before we get into my thoughts on the preseason game, I want to play the clip of the week. And this is just really Ryan Fitzpatrick and Josh Rosen, what they had to say after the first game of the preseason. Someone commented down below, "You got to stop talking mid-clip." Okay, I will stop talking mid-clip. So there you go. I mean, I think it was a good idea anyway. I don't know why I was talking mid-clip. But anyway, hopefully we can sync this up. I want to sync this up. Alright, hang on. One more time. Alright. One more time, and here we go. Play the clip.
It's a special place in my heart because for so long, I was scratching and clawing and trying to make rosters and all these reps and games, and whether it's first, second, third, or fourth really meant a lot to me. And so it's so much fun to watch guys, Mark, Walton, Miles, Preston, Patrick, the guys stepping up and making plays, and Jake having a couple nice drives too at the end there. It's good to see because there's a lot of hard work that goes into this thing by a lot of different people, and it's nice to see guys get an opportunity to go out there and show what they have.
I feel substantially better now than I did 2 weeks ago. But like I said, I got a long ways to go. The way Fitz in our meeting room can break down the defense and how quickly he can make comments on where everyone is, where the ball should go, is pretty impressive. And I think if I can kind of hedge that gunslinger attitude a little bit and put a little bit more thought into it, I think I could develop pretty nicely.
So that's what Josh Rosen. What the heck is going on right now? I'm sorry. Anyway, that's what Josh and Ryan had to say about. One of the things, and we're gonna get into the game right here in just a second, but that's an interesting clip. I just like Josh's confidence. He sounds way more confident than he did before, and which is good. And you could see it in the game, like as the game went on. He got more comfortable. And he looked really good out there. But so let's start with Josh Rosen. And this is just the things that I took away from that game against the Falcons in preseason. And then we'll get into the fan Q&A. So let's start with Josh. I thought Josh played really good. And, you see the interception that he had, and you're like, well, and we'll get to that here in a second, but to have that kind of performance that he had with how the offensive line was performing, I thought was really impressive. Some of the good things that I took away from it, number one, he throws a really pretty ball, and I know that everybody said that, but he really does. He throws a very accurate pass. His deep ball is perfect. It doesn't matter where he's throwing the ball. I mean, you see some other backup quarterbacks, especially some young ones, and how hard it is to throw an out route on time and how rare that is to be very good at it. And Josh was nailing everything. I mean, if anything was open, it was on the money. And I thought his accuracy was impressive from what I watched. Some of the other things I liked about it, he's a smart quarterback in the sense that, and I guess it's kind of a negative. I'll say that for later because it is kind of a negative. But I loved his poise. This is another thing I took away from it. I loved his poise after throwing the interception. He got up. He didn't lament on it. He wasn't captain check down. He went back out there and he started slinging the ball down the field. It didn't affect him at all. You could tell. It didn't affect him at all. You could tell as soon as he got back here. Neither did the pressure, which was very impressive. You see quarterbacks get happy feet. Anytime the offensive line breaks down, they get happy feet and their accuracy decays because of it. And they don't make reads downfield. Their eyes are either dropping down or they're trying to make quick reads or they're throwing off their back foot and it's inaccurate. He was calm, cool, and collected. Even though he had pressure in his face, he was still making reads downfield. They were quick. They were accurate. Even deep downfield, they were accurate. I thought his poise that he showed, despite the offensive line's failings, was very impressive. It was very, very impressive. I think it's super underrated, and I don't really know, I didn't really see anybody talking about it, but that is impressive. If anybody has ever played football that is listening to this right now, they can tell you right now that pressure is not a joke. You know what I mean? That can separate the good from the great. And for his poise, and I will keep repeating myself, was extremely impressive. To not change his game, to not worry about it. And that's something last year that you kind of saw with the Cardinals, that there was a little bit of that going on. But in this game, I didn't see it. I thought he still, like I said, he still made his reads. He still kept his eyes downfield. His feet were perfect. His accuracy was perfect, despite the pressure. And despite throwing basically a pick six to the other guy, or to the linebacker, came back and was gunning. I thought that was very, very impressive. Just watch Brock Osweiler last year. When stuff starts to break down, the quarterback starts to break down. And Josh didn't do that. And I thought that was very impressive. He made a lot of great plays. When he was getting wrapped up, he still made the great throw to Preston Williams. He threw Preston Williams open on the back shoulder fade. He threw a beautiful ball to Preston Williams. It wasn't a one-on-one situation. It was like a 1-on-3 or 2 situation. Preston came down with the ball. Perfect ball placement. If that ball is anywhere else, if it's flat, if it's a little inside, if it's a little too outside, then it's not going to be complete, or it's going to be an interception. So he put it right where it needed to be. And that's a quarterback who literally, and obviously the deep ball down the sideline was a beautiful, beautiful throw that Preston caught one-handed. For a quarterback to do that, despite all of the stuff that has been happening throughout the game, that's amazing, dude. He trusts this, off the play action, hitting Clive Walford in the seam, all of that stuff. He was really good on the bootlegs too, which impressed me. I've seen a lot of even young quarterbacks and backup quarterbacks, they suck at that. With the naked bootleg, you gotta, end right in your face. You gotta make a tough throw. It looks easy, but it's not. And Josh did a great job of that as well. I just loved the number one takeaway. I just loved his poise and the way he played after the interception, and after him taking all those hits, he just kept coming, and it didn't affect him mentally or how he played the game. And I thought that was very impressive. As for some negatives, I think he needs to learn, especially since he's a pocket passer, he needs to learn how to give up on a play from within the pocket. I think once he does that, the sky is the limit. He holds on to the ball way too long, not because he's not making reads. He's just trying to make a play. Literally a perfect example of that is how many times he scrambled. And Josh is not an athlete. He's a good athlete, but he's not getting 10 yards. He might get 10, maybe. But, I think the most you can really ask for from Josh is like a 3-yard game. He needs to learn how to give up on a play within the pocket, throw the ball away, stuff like that. I feel like and when to throw the ball away. Don't take unnecessary sacks just because nothing's open. Live to fight another down. You don't have to fight and claw every single play, but when he did do that, when he didn't give up on the play, he made a lot of great plays. The perfect example of that was the third down completion he had to Preston Williams with the guy wrapping him up. That is a really give and take thing about playing the quarterback position, is you want to be able, you need to know when to give up on a play and when not to give up on a play. And that's such a fine line. It's such a fine line. Because on one hand, if you are really good on not giving up a play, you can get a broken play, and the defense could break down, and you could get a huge play out of it when there was nothing there. And that's what makes the great quarterback so great. And on the other hand, it leads to a lot of sacks and turnovers when you don't know when to give up on a play. So I think that's something he needs to work on, is just how to give up on a play within the pocket, not scrambling around. But you also need to have that a little bit. So it's a very yin and yang situation. But I think he'll learn on when to give up on a play and not hold on to the ball as long. But I don't think it's him making reads slow. I really do believe it's just because he wants to make a play. Last year when he was with the Cardinals, you saw some of that. Like, he was late on some reads, but it wasn't like a problem. I just feel like, especially last night, most of those plays could have been avoided by some of them could have been avoided by throwing the ball away. Some of them, it was just the pressure was too much. But that's one thing that you notice in Josh's game, is he does not like to give up on a play. So that's something he definitely needs to work on. But overall, I thought the performance was amazing. Again, the poise is the biggest thing I took away from it. I just felt I loved his answer to throwing an interception, just coming out and slinging it. And even though there was pressure around him, even though the offensive line wasn't doing their job that well, because they were not having a good game, especially early on in that game. So really props to Josh Rosen, man. Really props to Josh Rosen. As for Ryan Fitzpatrick, we didn't get to see enough of him, but I felt like when he was out there, he made a lot of really good decisions with the ball. He didn't really make any mistakes. He scrambled when he needed to. When the play broke down, there was nothing there. So he took advantage of that. He didn't throw any bad balls, really. I didn't really feel like he missed any reads. There was really nothing I could say bad about Fitzpatrick and his performance. So there was really nothing there. There was not a lot of substance. I hope we see more of them both going forward to get a better look at them both. But obviously I would go with Josh. I like the way Josh played more. I thought he threw people open. I thought he threw beautifully and covered. Like, when people were covered, he threw a great accurate ball for them to go up and get it. And that's something that we haven't had here in a very, very long time. I really like the way, and I'm not just saying this, I just really liked the way he played. So it's kind of unfair to criticize Ryan Fitzpatrick, because he just didn't get enough. I just feel like he needed a little bit more time, playing time. And hopefully we get that with the Buccaneers. So yeah. As for the quarterback competition right now, so far from what we've seen, Josh Rosen's the number one right now. But it's not fair, because Ryan does need more playing time. But anyway, so enough for the quarterbacks. Let's move on from that. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Wide receiver Preston Williams played amazing. We could not have asked for a more perfect performance from him. Coming off all of the offseason hype, coming off all of the practice reports, coming off from this show of all the reports that we've read about how good he's playing in spring, for him to come out and play like that in his first game is phenomenal. I love the way he uses his physicality, the way he's really good at feeling a DB and how to get open on a given route, which is what I guess comes down to body control. But he's very aware of what to do, on what leverage he has and stuff like that. Is the most impressive thing. His hands are insane. They're crazy. They're really, really, really crazy. Like, some of the stuff he was doing out there is what you see kind of what Dez used to do when he was in the NFL. Just use his body and his strength and his great hands to really take advantage of coverage and his leverage. And I feel like Preston did a great job of that. That some of the catches he made were insane, dude. He's great at judging the ball in the air. He's got, again, great hands. His foot, everything about what he did out there was phenomenal. And that's some of the same things that's some of the same things you saw him do in college. Is just catch a lot of balls in traffic, use his body, to separate, and I think the sky is the limit for Preston Williams, man. It really, 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 really is. And he had a tremendous performance. He lived up to the hype so far, and hopefully can continue to consistently play at this high level. I've seen some tweets that were like, he's making 53-man roster, but will he play? It's like, dude, yeah, he's making the 53-man roster, and yeah, he needs to play if he performs like that against ones, dude. Are you kidding me? He's a mismatch nightmare, especially he is the perfect contrast to all of the other players on our team, too. That is what we have needed for a long time from Devontae Parker. He's just not as physical as Preston is. He doesn't use his body like Preston does to get open. And, that's what we need, is someone, when something's not there, or, maybe we need a big play, is for someone to go above and beyond, and that's what Preston could potentially give us. And I'm excited. But yeah, he's definitely making the 53-man. If Preston Williams doesn't make the 53-man roster, the stadium won't exist the next day. I mean, everybody's going to just riot, for God's sakes. So, in terms of other takeaways, I thought the defense as a whole, and I will get into individual, but the defense as a whole, I thought played very well on some of the first 3 drives. It was just number 40, who I can't remember his name right now, but he was giving up every play, man. Literally every play. I think it was either the first or second drive. If you guys go back and look, every first down and every big play, just look at number 40. He was giving every single thing up. Other than him, I felt like it was really, really, really good, especially from a coverage standpoint. In terms of the defensive line, I thought it was pretty solid. In terms of some individual performances that I liked, Tank, I thought, had a pretty good game. Pressuring the quarterback. I felt like he was good against the run as well. Who else? Van Ginkel. I thought he had a solid game. Nate Orchard with the sack, he looked pretty good. That was not only did he get a sack, but there was a couple times where he got I think maybe a couple pressures. From my memory, I thought he played very well. Dwayne Hendricks with the 2 sacks. LeBetter, or I think that's how you say his name. He had 2 sacks as well. He played very, very well. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody on the defensive line, but I felt all of those guys looked really good, especially LeBetter. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. He looked really good. I liked the way he was rushing the passer. Dwayne Hendricks looked really good. Tank, I liked, to repeat myself, but I thought he played very well. And it was good to see Nate Orchard, with that win. I thought he showed a lot of explosiveness and strength coming off the ball on that pass rush. So yeah, man, there was a lot to like on the defensive line. I mean, multiple defensive individual performances that were pretty dang solid, dude, which is a great sign. Christian Wilkins, his first game out, there was nothing really to write home about, but I mean, he's got a ton more time to show us what he can do, and I didn't see anything bad, that's for sure. There's nothing bad or anything, but there wasn't a lot to write home about there. In terms of the secondary, I can't remember his name right now. Number 40, he played terrible, but other than that, I feel like the first team secondary, for the most part, played very well. I like the way they played, especially in man-to-man coverage. Minka Fitzpatrick played great. Xavier should have had a pick in the back of the end zone. TJ McDonald had a couple of really good plays pressing at the line of scrimmage. It was really cool to see Minka Fitzpatrick lined up. I think it was against Austin Hooper. Or maybe it was a different, because I think Austin left. Whoever's wearing 81 at tight end now for them. I like that matchup, putting him on a tight end like that. But yeah, the secondary, Jalen Davis, I think he had a pretty solid game. He had that tip at the end. I'm trying to think of any other performances of note on the secondary. Not really. I think I pretty much covered it, I feel like. Defensively, I felt like, especially when the night kept going, some of the tackling could have been better. But other than that, and really, some of those players won't be on the team, or at least be playing meaningful snaps on defense, so I'm not really too concerned about that. I felt like the CFL player we signed from Canada, the linebacker, name's escaping me right now, I feel like he had a good game as well. I liked the awareness within the scheme that the defense showed as well. Anytime a tight end was trying to release, the defense did a great, or running back for that matter. Sometimes we got flagged for it because we got a little excessive, but I like the way that how the awareness within the scheme, the defense, made sure to check it and make sure they didn't get a clean release, which I liked a lot. As a whole, I liked what I saw from the defense. There was a lot of missed tackles. Sometimes the edge could have been set a little bit better in a few instances, but other than that, I liked a lot of the individual performances, especially on the defensive line. Some in the secondary. I liked what I saw. And again, if it wasn't for number 40 on those couple of drives there, then I felt like, and maybe we should, Jalen Davis, I think if he played with that unit, I think we would have gotten off the field earlier. But yeah, so those are some of my performances from the defense. Offensively, other than the quarterbacks, I liked how the guards played. They had their moments in terms of negative moments, but I liked how the guards played for the most part, especially on the goal line. I felt like they did a great job. We had a lot of rushing touchdowns in this game. So goal line blocking was pretty nice. The physicality was great. Chandler Cox, in terms of individual performances, how amazing did he play? He looked great out there. I'm trying to think. In terms of negatives, I would say, especially on offense, the offensive line depth is an issue. I almost forgot about this. Jordan Mills played god-awful. He looked terrible at tackle, dude. No wonder Brian was worried. Because the fact that Jordan Mills was ever being put in the starting lineup is crazy, dude. He played terrible, dude. He played absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. No, and I felt like Jesse Davis did a great job in replacing him in tackle, which I've been asking for throughout the preseason. But yeah, I thought Jordan Mills was terrible, man. He did not look good at all. But the running backs played well. Myles Gaskin with the 2 touchdowns. Kenny Drake had a couple of nice plays. So did Kalen. All of the running backs. Mark Walton had a couple nice plays as well. All the running backs played well. In terms of offensive and defensive takeaways, I thought offensively, the receivers looked great, the running backs looked great, the quarterbacks looked pretty dang good. The offensive line definitely showed its holes in terms of depth at the tackle position is really bad. I did like how Jesse Davis and Laramie played, or Laramie didn't even play, but Jesse Davis, I don't think Laramie played. Maybe he did, I can't remember. But again, I've only watched the game once, I'm going off of memory. But yeah, those are my takeaways. Because we have to get to the fan Q&A. I could go on for an entire episode, but we got to get into fan questions. So yeah, there was a lot of good, a lot of, not a lot of bad on defense, but definitely some things individually that need to be cleaned up with some of the players. But offensively, I feel like the biggest thing was just how bad the offensive line played in pass pro. At least, I feel like they got better as the game went on, but there was a lot of scary moments there. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but the 2 guards getting that many snaps, I feel like they played better as the game went on as well. And again, the goal line blocking was really good as well. So I think there's a lot to write. And the run blocking was pretty decent, I felt like, too. It definitely was better than last year. I'm not even going off of regular. I'm going off of preseason games last year. It was terrible even in preseason. And in this game, I felt like it was pretty dang good. So let's get into the fan Q&A, ladies and gentlemen. And hopefully that physicality continues to carry over. But those snaps that the rookies took are so valuable, dude. And hopefully they continue to grow and get better. I think they took 37 snaps, Michael Dieter and Calhoun. Shaq. I think they took 37 snaps. Alright, this first question comes from Bill Dent. He says, I don't know. It's a terrible way to start that. This first question comes from Bill. Bill says, this is Bill from Crazy California. What's happening with Minka Magic? Not really sure what you mean by that. So, moving on from that. I don't know if you mean Minka played, but I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. Moving on from that question. I'm just not really sure what you mean by that, Bill. This next question comes from SM. SM says, or asks, Jake Rudock makes the 53 mark. God, I'm just terrible at reading. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, does Jake Rudock make the 53-man roster if you're the GM? Keeping 3 quarterbacks is pretty steep. He played pretty well, though. His timing was really nice. His anticipation was nice. I felt like, he did almost throw a really bad pick 6. But other than that, I feel like he played pretty well. The only passing touchdown of the night from the quarterbacks was him to get Myles Gaskin. No, I wouldn't. I would try to keep him around the team, but I don't think he would make the 53-man roster. This next question comes from JackPack18. He says, I feel like Preston Williams gave more effort in one preseason game than DP has in 4 years. Thoughts? DP has had his moments. I feel like people are a little bit too hard on him. But DP definitely has had great games in his past. Like, a lot of really good games. But he just couldn't have done it. He just could not put together a consistent performance of dominance. And listen, we've only seen one preseason game from Preston Williams, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves. This next question comes from Mario. Mario asks, how do you think Josh Rosen did in his first preseason game? And what are your thoughts on the game and defense? We just went through that. But yeah, I really like the way he played. This next question comes from Ian. He asks or says, do you think Wilkins played well today? I thought he played good, serviceable good. I don't think there's anything to write home about, like special. But I thought he played solid. He didn't do anything bad. This next question comes from Ethan. Ethan says, hey Skaggs, when did you first become a Dolphins fan? And what was it about the Dolphins that led you to choose them? Just family. Just family. Really. That's about it. This next question comes from SM. SM says, Kenny Stills for Trent Williams. We have enough talent at wide receiver to be okay, but it won't matter if the quarterback doesn't have time to go through his progressions. Yes, I would definitely. The only problem with that is you're going to have to sign Trent to a long-term deal. And we have the cap space to do it, but you definitely don't want him to hold out. And he does have a pretty weird injury history throughout his career, but you're getting a Hall of Fame tackle. Adrian Peterson says it's the best offensive lineman he's ever played with. And he's played with people like Steve Hutchinson, for God's sake. So, I like Trent Williams a lot. I think he's one of the best players in the league. So, yeah, I would definitely make that trade. But there's also a lot of baggage that comes with that and things you're going to have to figure out. But I think him coming to the Dolphins, he would figure that out. Plus, I don't think you have to give up Kenny Stills. Granted, the Redskins do need receivers, but I don't think you're going to have to give up that much to get him if he is up for trade. All right, let's move on to the next question. This next question comes from Listen Without Warning. He says, will you ever post up the podcast with video of yourself, LOL? If I had the means to do it, yes. If I were ever to do it, it would have to be, I think it would have to be special. It would have to be with a good camera, a good set. If I were ever to do it that way, of course I would like to do that. It's just the means aren't, I just don't have the means to do it, if that makes any sense. This next question comes from G. Delva 2003. He asks, will we trade Kenny Stills for a draft pick? Preston Williams owned that the night. I really don't know why everybody wants Kenny traded. I really don't understand why. Kenny's a great player. He's young. He's a great deep threat. I don't understand why in the world everybody wants Kenny Stills gone. If Trent Williams comes knocking, which is a once in a lifetime opportunity, then obviously you do that because we would have the best tackle duo in the NFL. But unless something crazy, we already have so many draft picks this upcoming draft. So unless there's a crazy offer, I don't understand why you guys want Kenny Stills gone. He adds a lot to the offense. So no, I don't think we need to do that. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, there are guys up in the middle, Hendricks and others, that should start. How do the Finns cut guys at wide receiver or DT that should have a spot on the team? I liked how the guys played in front. Like, the guys that played in front of those guys played well. That's a tough group to crack if you want to start those guys. I love the way, I think Ledbetter, or hopefully I'm saying his name right, I loved the way he played. I love the way Dwayne played too. I thought they both played very well, but We have to see it on a consistent basis to even consider, one of them. So it was one preseason game. This next question comes from SM. He asks, some other teams offer you a 28-year-old Pro Bowl right tackle and a high second-round draft pick for Preston Williams. What do you do? I wouldn't do it because Preston's on a rookie deal, and he has the potential to be a number one wide receiver. So, no, I'm not going to do that. Even for Trent Williams, I wouldn't do that. This next question comes from SM. SM asks, what steps do you take draft picks, trades, to get the O-line together? If it's true that Trent is available, I would make whatever. Maybe definitely not a first round pick, but maybe not even maybe a third. I would definitely do it for a third, but not a second. Maybe a second. I don't know. I think I would do it for a second. I would definitely try to get Trent Williams if I was the GM for sure. We have the cap space to do it. We can extend him for a long time. We could have one of the better offensive lines in terms of edges in the NFL. And with Michael Dieter coming up, who the heck knows how good this offensive line could be in the future, and especially with Shaq, too. Shaq's played well, so that's definitely something I would look into. But Jesse Davis has been playing pretty solid, so... This next question comes from Mark. He says, what's up, Skags? What are your thoughts on the performance of our secondary against Matt Schaub? Also, should we be worried about the offensive line this year? Yes, you need to continue to monitor that because I feel like, it's great to see Jesse play the way he did at tackle, and that's something that he's done in the past. So there is definitely promise there. It was really just the depth at the offensive line that I'm super concerned about because if somebody got hurt, that could literally mean a loss next week. Just because of how bad the depth looks right now. But, yeah, the offensive line depth definitely concerns me. How did our secondary against Matt Schaub? Number 40 gave up a lot of big plays that he shouldn't have given up. I thought we did very well other than him as an individual. He needs to play better as a player because everybody else did their job except him. So... This next question comes from D-Mac. D-Mac asks, with the emergence of Preston Williams, do you think Kenny Stills or Devontae Parker could get traded? No. Definitely not in one preseason game. If it were to happen, it would happen after preseason or towards the end of preseason. But I think the Dolphins want to see more. D-Mac asks, what did you think of the Dolphins pass rush? I thought it was better than I anticipated it being. For sure. Next question. This next question comes from TR3MC. He asks, how do you think our coaching did, and was there one particular strength or weakness that stood out about the game? Offensive line was a clear weakness. Strength, I think there were a lot of good individual strengths for sure that we've already discussed. This next question comes from Chad. Chad asks, Skaggs, I told you Preston Williams was a baller and McCain should be a free safety and you spat in my face. Bam, I'm taking over the show. Go Fins. First of all, Chad, never ever, I don't recall you saying that, number one. Number two, I've been talking about Preston Williams for a long time. Never said Bobby McCain would be bad at free safety either. Just saying, Chad, you want to come over here and cause some smoke. Maybe you get too close to the tank, you're going to get wet. That's all I got to say. This next question comes from Derry. He says, hey, Skaggs, Brian Flores said Josh Rosen had a gunslinger mentality and likes to let it rip, which he was talking about the pass to Preston Williams. Do you think that he should be, do you think that he should have tooking the sack or try to make a play like he did? Interesting way of framing that question. He made a great play. That's the kind of stuff Josh Rosen is great at. It's just ball placement. But, like I said, the one thing that he needs to get better at is just giving up on a play. Some of those sacks that he took we're not. I mean, there's no way. I mean, I don't know what else you want him to do other than to get hit. That's just on the offensive line. But there were other times, he probably could have gotten rid of the ball. Like the 2-minute drill towards the end of half, he took a sack where he kind of got tripped up from behind. That's a great example of getting rid of the ball. But he does like to scramble. He likes to pick up extra yards. He does have the athleticism to do that, but he's not Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's not getting 15 yards on a scramble. So he needs to get better at just like, all right, I'm throwing the ball away. Let's not use a timeout. Let's not have to waste it down on a spike. Let's just keep the ball moving. And, I felt like that was probably the worst sack he took, was in the 2-minute drill when he got tripped up from behind. But other than that, he played amazing in the pick. But that is going to be it, guys, for this week. A lot of things to be happy about. A lot of things to look forward to. I'm very happy with how the young players played. It was very impressive. So that is going to be it, guys, for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please spread the word, spread the love any way you can. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.